people that I've been working with, the organizations, everything that I've learned. And now I'm able to do that through the legislative process with the Marijuana Policy Project, something that I think all of us understand and know. The war on drugs, the war on marijuana, prohibition has failed, utterly failed. It failed the first time, it's failing the second time. And the tide has changed across the country. Obviously, states are starting to full legalization, where it's taxed and regulated similarly to alcohol. And we have 23 medical marijuana states. And I get people telling me that Texas is going to be last, and they are so mistaken. They must not know the activists that we have in Texas that are committed to repealing prohibition in Texas, and it's a really exciting time to be involved. MPP is a national organization, and they work at Congress, they work on changing federal policy, but they also have teams of activists in all the states working on the ground. And that's my job. I'm the Texas political director, so I'm working to help bring together a coalition, similarly to what I've learned with TAG, and working with organizations that TAG's been working with, like Texas Normal, DFW Normal. They've been doing this stuff for years and have been doing a great job at it. I hear that from people whenever they talk about working with Normal, they're like, oh, they're just a bunch of stoners that throw parties. And some of them are. However, in Texas, we have some of the greatest leadership that I've seen that are working on this issue, doing it professionally, and they've laid the groundwork at the legislature so that this coming legislative session, which is really just like 5 months away until it starts, and it's only like 3 months until they start introducing bills. Our legislators introduce bills 6 days after they're elected. Pre-filing opens, which means we have some work to do with organizing. In this legislative session, we plan on introducing 3 bills. The first is a kind of an overall bill for a full legalization, where it's available to responsible adults over 21, just like alcohol is. And this is a huge step in the right direction. And obviously, we have a lot of work to do to get that bill passed, considering the tough on crime culture in Texas, and you know how people just don't realize that the resources that are going into marijuana arrests are actually disabling our law enforcement from actually preventing and serving victims of real crime. So our goal for the full bill is 2019, 3 legislative sessions to get this bill passed. There's a lot of discussions that need to be had, a lot of people in this room that need to go into their legislator's office and have the real grown-up conversation about the detriment that prohibition has served to our society. Now in the process to 2019, we're going to be introducing 2 other bills, one of which is a medical marijuana bill. This is a comprehensive bill which allows patients safe and legal access to their natural medicine that never should have been deprived. They never should have been deprived of to begin with. And the bill not only allowed for dispensaries, but also allowed patients to be free from fear of arrest. Traditionally there's been an affirmative defense bill introduced by Elliot Neystadt, which is here in Austin. Some of you may live in his district, which has been great that he's introduced that. It gets the discussion had. Last legislative session, Texas Normal helped to organize some incredible testimony, and there was a hearing. People testified. It was fantastic. It was really well done, and it really started the discussion. Well, the problem with affirmative defense is that patients are still getting arrested. Patients are still having to go to trial, the cost, the stress that goes along with that, and then it's at the whim of a judge to throw it out. So that's not good enough. So we're going to be pushing for a more comprehensive bill. In addition, we will be introducing our 3rd bill, which is we're calling a civil penalties bill. And why I favor this as opposed to the decriminalization bills that have been introduced in the past is because rather than just taking it from Class B to Class C misdemeanor, which is still, you can still go to jail for, you still have to go to court, what this does is it takes it out of the criminal realm and puts it into the civil realm. So there's no jail time, there's no life sentence as far as employment, access to employment, education, housing, things like that that go along with it. We call it collateral consequences or collateral sanctions is really what they are, because it follows you for life. And most of the people that are arrested are young people. And so we're crippling our younger generations totally unnecessarily. So those are the 3 bills that we're introducing. I'm kind of the field operations grassroots mobilizer, which is perfect because that's what I've learned with all of you, and we can come together and do all of that. And then we have our professional lobbyist that we've hired. So my teammate is a professional lobbyist who traditionally has worked with law enforcement. Which at first I was like, red flag. But actually it's a really great thing. He's totally committed, absolutely professional, and has built relationships with legislators and with law enforcement. So he can help to bridge the gap because we have, obviously, TAG and folks like myself have a lot of skepticism as far as law enforcement goes, and their motives for keeping laws the way that they are, and advocating for keeping things like civil asset forfeiture, which is absurd. They can just steal your things and not even have to return them to you. Just like the things that Ed was just talking about. So I'm excited to be working with him. His name is Randall Kirkendall, and he's great. We were just up in DFW for the DFW normal meeting, and Texas is huge, we know that. So we have like the populations of these different metro areas is like a state. And so their chapter of DFW normal is kick-ass. They really do a great job. They had like 100 people at their meeting on Saturday. About 20 of them were new people that signed up to be members that are enthusiastic. People are seeing what's happening in this country and getting involved. And Texas Normal has their regular monthly meeting on August 6th. And they're creating, they have their chapters, and they have lots of information coming all the time. And so if you're interested in getting involved with Texas Normal and being involved with them, you can do that, join the meeting. MPP.org is our website. And I'm really excited to be a part of this and to have TAG on board. I know we've been working on this issue, and we'll continue to do so. I'll be in a little bit of a different capacity, but I'm looking forward to having some other activists that I've worked with kind of rising to the occasion and be the TAG leadership on this issue. So we have lots of different faces, lots of different organizations on this front. And if you guys have any questions, I'll be happy to take them. I think that pretty much covers all the details of the strategy, but if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. All right, everybody knows everything about me.
Let's let it percolate a little, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So what I want to know is, what can we do leading up to the legislative session? What can TAG do? We're creating a committee, a micro group around ending the drug war or decriminalization at some point. I know we have to take steps, right?
That's right.
So what can we do right now between now and our 6th year anniversary party, which is next month?
That's right. Yeah, can you believe it? TAG is 6 years old. Kicking ass for 6 years, it's great. So the biggest thing is having real grown-up conversations with legislators, going in and actually sitting down with your legislator or his staff and talking about the ills of prohibition. How many of you have ever gone to your legislator's district office? Oh, that's great. Awesome. You guys rock. That's great. And so there's about half of you guys have been into their offices, which is wonderful. But that means that half of us that haven't ever. And I know that you're committed to the cause because you're here, which is great. And most of you guys are here all the time, keeping up with what's going on, sending emails, making phone calls. We need to step it up this time. And we need to get into their offices, make sure we're getting down to the Capitol, just like we did last session for all the array of issues that TAG is involved with. And of course, we're going to be keeping you up to date, letting you know what the action alerts are, where you can go, kind of talking points about what to say. It's intimidating, it can be, going into a legislator's office. But the reality is you're probably smarter than they are, and you should let them know. Talk to them about the issue. John?
Don't forget about testifying before committee hearings.
Yep. Thank you, John. That's exactly right.
I posted on my blog a detailed set of instructions on what to do when you testify before the state legislature.
That's
Tells
great.
you everything about where to go, where to park, how to apply to be a speaker, you know, how to dress, you know, everything you need to know about testifying before the state legislature.
And what's the address for your blog?
Constitutionalism.blogspot.com.
All right, constitutionalism.blogspot.org. And he has all the details on that. And you're right, that is a critical part when the legislative session starts. But we first have to get our bills introduced. They're being drafted now. Actually, our medical marijuana bill is being reviewed by the constitutional attorneys, which means it's so close. And then that'll be introduced in November, and then we get started. And then once the legislative session starts in January, the bills have to make their way through the process. So once they're referred to a committee, obviously the medical marijuana bill will be referred to the Public Health Committee in the House. And then we know who our target is. We know the 6 or 7 or 8 people that are on the committee. They vary how many reps are on there. And we know that we need to go and talk to them at the Capitol and be prepared to offer professional adult testimony, not saying the same thing that somebody else has said 100 times, because we don't want to waste their time. We want them to see that we are efficient, We are serious about the issue, and we want to see the laws changed.
We have one more question. Time for one more question. And then at the end of the meeting, we're going to break out into micro groups, and the marijuana cause is going to be one of them, so you can actually have FaceTime with Heather and also Jack Winkle from Normal as well.
And this is a smoke-free establishment, don't forget. Does anybody else have a question? Dana is willing to yield if somebody else has a good question. All right, go ahead, Dana.
I would like to see a show of hands of like who would be interested in going to the Capitol with us, either representing TAG or as kind of a liaison for what Heather is doing in that capacity. Who's interested in this cause and just people to. So this is how many people we should have at a committee hearing.
Yeah.
Right here. I mean, this is a tour de force.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you know what, it's gonna be about 100 times that, because there are organizations just like TAG all across the state of Texas
We're
that are
actually
interested in
gonna have
issues
to
like this.
vet testimony and triage testimony because we have to be considerate of our legislators' time to a certain extent. If we want to have the most favorable impression, we have to have really poignant, moving testimony, and then literally as many people signed on in support as possible.
Yeah.
And you have to come to the Capitol to sign your support on. So you would come and sign on, and then we'll all meet in a room and discuss who's got what testimony, and then based on that, it'll be who's testifying and who's signing in support. So even if you can only come on your lunch break to come and sign your support and then leave, it's gonna be worth it, because if we only have 20 people testify, but we have 200 people that came to the Capitol to sign their support for this, it really speaks volumes. I mean, they were just blown away by the 36 people who testified last year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it was great testimony because of that strategy, because we were able to get a room, be able to organize testimony. And I know that my time is short, but I just want to say one thing, because I was on an awesome road trip this summer, and I was able to make it to Washington and Colorado. And we were in Washington on the very first week of sales, which was really cool to be a part of history. We called every dispensary that had a license for marijuana sales, and only 2 of them were not completely sold out by day 3. And they were the ones, the northernmost dispensaries closest to the border. Luckily, we were already going up there, so we got to go to the 2 dispensaries. And it was really great to be a part of it, and to be free, to feel a little freer in doing something that I like to do responsibly. Yeah, that's right. And then in Colorado, where it's a little more established, and I was able to do a tour of a dispensary and a cultivation center all in one. It was called Medicine Man. They started out as a medical marijuana dispensary, and since January 1st, they've been both medical and recreational. And it was really great to see the business aspect of it, because these are adult business owners that are running a business, and they have everything's organized and well done. And I was looking at one thing that I thought was interesting was the plants, the clones. That's how they do it, to make sure they have the perfect product. And once they get roots, they get a tag, an RFID tag, that labels them either medical or recreational. And they have to stay medical or recreational, regardless of supply and demand. They have to stay that way. It's totally documented. And I made one comment that how refreshing it was to see RFID used in an appropriate way, rather than tracking children or something like that. So it was great to see it used to make a business more efficient, and to see it all happening. It was the first time I've been around growing plants. And so I got to go check out their Green Mile, which is a huge room, just bright green. It was really a great experience. So I was glad to be able to see that and be a part of it, and then take some of that information to our legislators so that they can see some of the pictures that I took of the professional operation. So it's not scary. It's not something that they've never seen before, that they haven't ever heard of. It's not this boogeyman lurking, because quite frankly, it's not scary. What's scary is the cartels that are running the market now, and the bloodshed and the violence on the border. That's what's scary, not professional adult business owners supplying a product to a market. And that's all I have to say about that. Thank you so much for your support. I'm looking forward to the breakout towards the end of the meeting, so we can talk a little bit more about the details. Thank you.
Heather, Fazio.